We're gonna turn this into a bluegill. Got my reference photo. Might not look exactly like that, but let's try to make this pretty. I already have the white base coat on. I don't know, these look, sometimes bluegills, they can look really fleshy. They got a lot of pink and flesh tone in them. And when they're that way, that color is set back pretty far. Looks like that's would be good for a base coat. So I'm gonna start the base coat on this bait with just a flesh tone. That is what this color is called, is detail flesh tone. Over the whole thing. So dark in here. It's my window setup decor. Don't be jealous. Flesh tone, I gotta lighten that up. This looks pretty close to orange. I didn't realize how dark that flesh tone gets. I'm gonna lighten it up, add some white and add a little bit of pink. And then towards the top of this bait, we're gonna get into the dark greens, darker colors. Cause look at that, it's like a cutoff. It's light down here and then there's like almost a distinct line where the darker colors are on the top. We're gonna try to do that. That was some detail white coming up from the bottom, fading it into the flesh tone. That's what the other side looks like, it's not done yet. To that white, I'm gonna add some pink. Fluorescent pink. Very bright. Very little. Or else it'll look like it belongs in a cartoon. That's no pink. And that's pink. The next thing to do is to put that those darker colors on the back. And I don't just want to spray it on, I want to stencil it. I want it to look natural, but it be defined clearly still. So I need to cut something out. I'll have one really defined kind of jagged line, make a stencil that does that, and then I'll go back and add some of the dark spots that go down into the pink after I stencil it on. By the way, this is the dude's picture that I'm using. Thank you for your picture. I don't know you, but nice picture. Just making a super squiggly line that I'm gonna follow with a knife. And that's gonna be the jagged line that goes across the lateral line on this bluegill. You can't be afraid to change directions really quick. Bit of a technique to making jaggedy lines like this, but not really at the same time because you want it to be uneven and not show a pattern. Probably the worse you are at this, the better. Now for the color, I'm going to put on the top or on the back of this bait. It's going to be a detailed moss green. This is a really dark green, but at the same time there's a lot of green in it. And on the real fish there's not a lot of green in it, so I'm going to be careful. This might not be the correct color. Yeah, I'm just going to spray a little bit and see. I think that flesh tone behind it will help it not be so green. Yeah, that's pretty good. Last thing I'm going to do before I give this bait its first clear coat is put a bit of orange. Sorry, I started thinking about other things while I was talking. I think I'm making sure that it is the last thing it needs. Yeah, I'm just going to put a little bit of orange on the belly. Right up to the gills, past the gills, or at least past where the gills will be painted on. Because I want there to be that clear light blue distinction. At the end of the gills there's light blue and it goes right to orange. I'm going to paint over the orange with light blue so it looks like that. No pearl colors yet. I'm just going to go with a flat orange. Wicked orange. Wicked, man. Ugh. Sometimes there's water left in your airbrush. You start shooting a different color after you've cleaned your airbrush, and what comes out first is water, and then you shoot your color on top of the water and it looks bad. I'm good though. It's not a big problem. I had that orange come up pretty high, and it's pretty far forward, but when you look at a real picture of a bluegill, that's how it is. The orange is very close to the gills. Proof right there. I lied. That wasn't the last step. I've decided to do one more thing. Can you tell I'm just making all this up as I go? Bluegills have those bars. They're not really like perch stripes, they're bars that go all the way down. But it looks like since it's all fleshy down here in pink, the bars fade away down here. You can kind of see them. Just a little bit. But I'm going to make them fade away. And the bars are mostly going to be at the top and where the moss green is on my bait. Just up here. The color I need to be using is like a super dark gray, but not really. I have raw umber and then detail sepia. I don't know which one's green. I probably want the greener one. Maybe I do want the brown one. I'm gonna go with the sepia. I don't know which one's green, which one's brown. Looks like this one's kind of a greenish brown. So we're just gonna go with it. I'm gonna fade those bars into the green part on the top. That'll do. It goes pretty far into the pink. Honestly, I didn't mean to do that. That color really shoots well, and that happened. So I'm gonna work with that. I think I can still make that look just fine. So as of now, this looks nothing like a bluegill, maybe a little bit, but we're gonna put a clear coat on it. And then after the clear coat, we can get into doing some more detailed paint. You gotta take the masking off the lip before the clear coat, of course. And they are just looking fabulous. That was a 2-part epoxy clear coat that I just applied to these, and with a little bit of black glitter in it. It's like black pepper flake with glitter in that too. I'm not sure if the glitter's on the black or if they're separate little flakes that are not black but they're glittery. I don't know. Gives it some good texture. Bluegills are a pretty dirty looking fish, so I think this applies, you know, that'll look fine. I'm gonna stop rambling about this and I'll get back with you guys when this bait's ready to paint again. Clear coat's set. This is what we're dealing with now. I was a little naughty and I painted the belly white down here off camera. So we're just gonna jump right into the scales because that's the next step. Got to get a relatively, always out of focus. Okay, I think we're focused now. So you need to get a relatively clean piece of screen or mesh or whatever you're using. The reason you want some clean mesh is because you want to see where you're painting. Sometimes it can be hard to see if you're reusing it. This is a reused piece, but it's pretty clean. Got my reference photo back up. I'm seeing a little bit of gold and I'm seeing a dark color. I'm gonna mix the silver in with the gold, not together in my airbrush, but like over each other when I spray it. And then the dark color is going over that. There's even some orange in the gills. The gill plates kind of have scales and there's a little bit of orange in them. So I'm just gonna paint something to see if I get close. It's real easy to get paralyzed with thought and not know what to do and then do something stupid. Then again, this is just painting a lure, so this isn't rocket science. Now some gold. And the gold is gonna go more towards the belly. Yeah. So now to achieve the, you see the black dots that kind of tip the scales? Oops, sorry. There's like little black lines on the back of every scale. And towards the head here, they're more like dots. I'm gonna try to mimic this. Look at that focus. Look at that. Okay, I'm gonna need to shoot at this lure with my airbrush at an angle and use the mesh to catch the paint in a particular way. The paint's gonna come in at this angle, and all that it's gonna land on when it comes to the lure is the end of every scale. And then towards the head, I'm just gonna shoot at it straight, so it's more dot-like up here. This is detail smoke black. It's really thin. I went at that really randomly too. I want it to kind of look splotchy, I think. I'm not particularly confident that that did the job. We'll see. We'll wait for that to dry and there'll be the reveal. Here we go. I take the top clamps off first, and then I take the middle clamps out of the bottom first. I don't always do this, but I found this is what you should do if you want your mesh to be taken off cleanly. You know, at first I thought it looked like absolute garbage, but I'm looking at the reference photo, going back and forward, and it really doesn't look that bad. Especially when you put it in the light and show the pearls. I should probably show you. See, you see how that could kind of look bad? But then you go like that, and it's like, oh, it's shiny and it's got some gold. At first it just looked like a bad paint job. I don't know. I'll do some work on this. We'll get this better. It's a good start. So I darkened the top a little bit, and that really does look like the reference picture. I'm gonna get the gills on this bait and that little yellow fin. It's actually a pretty big fin for the size fish, but I'm gonna get the rest of the detail on this and it's gonna look good. That looks good. Drew out the best bluegill gill I could. Tried to keep it simple but also have it be really clean. This is what I came up with. We'll see how it looks. So that's the gill closest to the eye, and this is the back gill with the ear. If the lip won't let your stencil sit flush, you gotta cut your stencil so it does. That'll be great. Looks good. Going in with the white next. Moving the stencil forward just a bit. Once I get up close to that ear, I gotta taper off real quick so I don't paint the ear white. I mean, it won't make much of a difference if I do, but because I can always go back and paint it black, but I'm gonna try not to right now. Just like on the back of this bait, there's a little bit of moss green in the gills. Gonna keep the stencil over the gills and color that in a little bit. And it's all towards the top. Well, actually it's all over. It's more towards the middle. A lot like that. That looks really green right now, but it's gonna get washed away a little bit with other colors. The first colors that you apply, you have to consider that. Like, these aren't going to be that strong because they're going to get covered up with other stuff. Next color is blue, light blue, and we're going to go hard with this because this is going on the gills because it's a bluegill. Laguna blue. You do the part that is in front first. So this first little gill that I made is what I'm going to do first, then I'm going to do the back one. So the last step, it's going to be to put the yellow in the side fin. But before I do that last step, we're going to get the gills more detailed, and I'm going to put in those scales, those darker orange scales that you see inside of the gill plates. It looks like it'd be appropriate for a little bit of pearlized white before I put those pearl orange scales in. That's what I'm going to do. Pearlized white, pearl orange, and then yellow for the side fin, and this bait's done. Oh, and I'll probably come back in with some more black to redefine the ear. Always something else, you know. You probably can't see that on camera. The sparkliness is what I just put in there and the gills. So it's time to get careful now. You can see a little bit the scales where they were. I'm going to line them up I'm gonna line this mesh up on top of them and not spray outside of the gill, but still do it freehand and put some little scales in here. It's a very small detail, maybe not even worth it, but I did it, so there it is. Gotta get some yellow on that fin, some black on that ear, and we're done. Did I say we're done? I meant to say, and then we're gonna paint some glass eyes for this bait. Start out with a pupil. Try to make them even. I got the pupil down already. I'm gonna go over the whole thing with some gold, a thin layer of gold. And then behind the gold, I'm gonna put a white iris or a ring around the pupil. So I'm just gonna make a bigger white pupil on top of the black pupil. And that's gonna make kind of a whitish gold iris. And then I'm gonna do a really dark color for the rest of the eye. I think I explained that right. I'm just gonna paint this and you'll see. Just a really thin layer of gold, you can barely see it. So that's a blob of white that's wider than the pupil. That's gonna take a little bit to dry. Using a really dark color. It's called Detail Burnt Orange, but it gets really dark. It's orange, but it's like super dark orange. That'll look good. That is some 5-minute epoxy. A little bit too much 5-minute epoxy. It's okay. I always do too much gold when it comes to glass eyes. I always know I'm gonna do too much gold too, and then I do it anyway. It's okay. I would say that looks pretty similar. Not exact replica kind of stuff, but that looks good. Done. Here's the other bait I was painting alongside this bluegill. Did a perch. Tried to maintain a lot of yellow in this perch and did just a slight tint of orange on the belly. Turned out great. This is the exact same clear coat as before, 2-part epoxy clear coat. And no, I'm not gonna fish with either one of those. I've been fishing with mine. My pole's in my car actually. The Fire Tiger crankbait that I made for myself. But it's been hard. It's been very hard to catch a fish lately. Why? That's why. At least that's why I'm not out fishing right now. Also, I'm not really your top tier kind of fisherman. I make a lot more baits than I fish with. But also, the reason I'm not going to fish with those is because I'm selling them to real other people in this world. That's just a couple. I got more. Where do you get them, you might ask? Coming soon. Marling Baits website with fishing lures for sale on it. How much are they going to be, you might ask? Quite a bit. Not your standard fishing lure prices. These wooden baits take quite the chunk out of my day, and I prefer to get paid for it. Gotta shut my heater off. I don't mean to sound rude or it's not rude. I just, yeah, take a lot of time. I think the way that I'm doing it too is taking an excessive amount of time. Like I'm really dwelling over each paint scheme and trying to make each one perfect. And that's what you get with these. So it really is how I would prefer to make baits. Nice and slow, methodical. As close to one at a time as possible. Like I just painted those two at the same time together. So I'm not really doing one at a time, but it is quite meticulous. So yeah, keep an eye out on the non-existent Marling Baits website. that's where those will be. And also, a little look at the next lure that will be in the Marling Baits lineup. I'm setting this up really weird here. Can you guess what that's going to be? I'm sure you can. On to the next bait. On to this bait for the next video.